everyone. We just jumped off of Clubhouse just a few minutes ago talking about our topic, lead conversion. It was our session 8, and it was super jam-packed conversations we had today, lots of strategies. And I wanted to really introduce today's topic. And lead conversion is, the marketing process of turning your customers, your potential leads into customers, and how do you convert them? And it's about that stimulation, that desire to giving them ideas into that purchasing, making that purchasing decision, and converting them and getting them ready to make that purchase. And there's a number of strategies we talked about today. Is there something that you really resonated with you, Jacob?
It's just about standing out. There's so many real estate agents, especially here in this Houston market. Even like a quick search I did while we were on the call, is like 22,000 people came up. And it's like, how do you compete with that? And I think it's about everybody's unique, and there's a lot of cookie cutter agents out there. So a way for you to stand out is to figure out why you're different. A lot of the techniques and stuff everybody's going to use to get clients, but what makes you different? So we talked about our life experiences and, our different background educations. I definitely utilize the digital marketing that's been my background for the last 12 years. So I can definitely go above and beyond any real estate agent, buyer, or seller's agent to market a property and to utilize that for the benefit. And I think one of the things that we talked about was, how do you communicate that to your client where it benefits them? Because you can talk about all these things that you're great at, but if you don't translate it into how that's going to help them in their current situation, it's just a loss. And so we talked about that. And the other thing I liked about, and we can get into a little bit later, is just the networking aspect of marketing yourself, that you have a strong network of professionals that you have that is an asset for your buyer to look for financing, or your seller if they need to prep their house, that you have a network of people to make their lives easier and to save them time and the stress of having to look for somebody.
Yeah, and one of the things that to me that spoke a lot is that I kept coming back to that, building a relationship with somebody. And, because there's so many people, and speaking to that topic of, being top of mind and doing it a little bit differently than what other people are doing. And we're in an area where it's super saturated, tons of competition. How do you stand out? And I talked about a quote that I just recently posted on my social media too. It's about, people don't know what they want until you show it to them. And the process of that could be, putting on search alerts, and maybe even giving a very narrow area where they're living. And then maybe they'll tell you, maybe I don't want to look at this. Can you send me something else? Or maybe they'll, edit their search. And I think that you're giving them these access to information for them to help them, really providing them with value so they're able to make an informed decision about coming back to that purchasing decision, right? And also what I was sticking to today was, making sure you're getting in front of people in a way that try your best. Everything that you're going to do in terms of nurturing is to get them in front of them in person, whether it's about showing, hey, I know that you looked at such and such property. Are you available this Sunday to go see it? And I think taking them to that next level of getting in front of them in person. So there's a rapport that's building. Now you can get to know them a little bit. You can ask them about a little bit of personal questions, walk around the house, figure out what they like. And same thing with, a seller as well, right? Making sure that you're trying to get that listing appointment, or even just to show them what your value is and how you're different than everyone else. And to putting together that listing presentation, how do you do that? How do you make yours stand out compared to another agent?
Exactly. Even in my listing presentation, I put what the traditional agent does that everybody is going to come through. So I'll tell them, everybody's going to tell you they do this, and they do it well. But this is what I do in addition to this, and this is where I stand out. And so for everybody is going to be different. I make sure that all of my sellers, they get the best photography I can get into town. And even though that comes out of my pocket, and the best videography, because a lot of agents try to cut corners and they take pictures with their cell phone. So you can literally take a listing that's up and say, look at how this standard picture is. You can tell it's not professionally done versus this picture we did. And and sometimes you don't have all of that stuff in the beginning to start out. We talked about tonight that you can show previous listing presentations, but what if you don't have a listing presentation yet? You've only worked with buyers. One thing my mentor even told me, because I told her I only want to work with sellers. She said, I recommend starting out working with buyers, because working with buyers will show you what buyers are looking for. And so when you go to work with sellers, another thing that you can stand out and say is, yeah, all these people, they generally only work with sellers, which is great, but they don't know what buyers are looking for and those questions they ask. And when they're walking through the home, I can read a buyer because I'm used to representing them. So I can see that, oh, that buyer is not interested or they're not serious. So working with buyers, you can utilize that for your advantage. If that's all you can get in the beginning, it's a good thing because you can translate that to help the sellers be able to qualify the buyers that are walking through and to see if they're interested or maybe turn the appointment around. So it's just another thing to add value. It always comes back to that. In order to convert somebody to a client, you've got to add value and show them why your services are worth the other guy down the street, because it's a big deal. Them selling their house or somebody buying a house, it's a lot of money. And, you know, with a seller, time is money too. And they want to get the best price possible and they want to sell it as quickly as possible, you know, depending on their timeline. So it just all comes back to adding value.
Yeah. And you know, when we talk about that progression, all these, you know, past couple of weeks when we're talking about different topics of really before you get your license to getting registered and now really kickstarting your career in real estate, you know, we talked about, you know, you generate these leads and then nurturing them. And now, you know, you've done all of this to get their attention and now you got their attention now, right? And I think that in order for you to really, you know, turn them into a client, start showing properties with them, potentially looking to list, putting them on contract. There's a process, right, involved, and there's a lot of energy that goes into it. And I love how the amount of energy that you put into a strategy over time, it'll work for you. And I know you shared a great example today about, you know, one of the leading realtors that you met, who's one of the top one realtor in Virginia, and you talked about her who, you know, we met in Clubhouse, and she's a great example of someone who became a community leader. And now, yes, she spent a lot of money back into a community to build her brand even more. But in order for her to get there, she did all that work up front. And I know we dived into YouTube a very little bit today. And you know, I wanted to save a lot of the YouTube strategies for our next topic, our next section, which is the Sunday, 8 p.m. Eastern time, which is YouTube 101. I'm super looking forward to it. And if any of you ever thought of getting into starting out in marketing and don't know where to start, this is a session you want to tune into. But anyways, before we wrap this up, I do wanted to mention a couple of things in terms of lead conversion is, remember guys, adding value is about getting that, you know, listing presentation together, understanding your area, searching your market, getting that CMA together so that when you go to see them in person, you got that exactly comparables ready to go, that is exactly like their property. And then market reports, start getting to, you know, you're showing these people that you know the numbers, that you're looking at them, you understand what the sales are like, and that you think and you're going to be strategic when it comes to whether it's negotiation or putting in an offer that's enticing as well, right? But thinking about, you know, your deposit, how much you're putting in, how much you know that you're knowledgeable enough to advise them accordingly and provide recommendations and options for them, you know, thinking about conditions or whatever it may be about putting together that enticing offer. And it all starts at a very earlier point of providing value, so that when it comes to that conversion, you know, that's why some of these topics overlap, because it's about that customer journey, right? It's not like you go into step 3. It's all really progression. They're all progression, right? Anyways, any last thoughts, Jacob?
You know, one thing we did touch upon tonight that I think is very important is a lot of agents are very weak in the sales and closing aspect. They're afraid to ask for it. And and I have a huge sales background, not only just from running my own business, but being in the financial services industry right out of college. And one thing is they always tell you, you got to always be closing, always be asking for a yes answer. Make sure that when you're asking your clients questions, that you're asking them something that's going to result in a positive yes answer or a positive answer. Because if you get them in a habit of saying no, and you're saying, are you ready to go forward or look at this house or sign this agreement? They're going to say no. It's going to be more comfortable to say no. But if you get them in the yes, doesn't this make sense? Doesn't this make sense? Obviously, you want to ask questions that you know the answer to. And, you know, one thing that I learned, and it's so awkward, but it works, is that, and I use this with closing all of my digital marketing clients in the past. And one thing, one of my first trainers in sales told me was, the first person to speak after you ask them, like, are you ready to get started? Are you ready to close? Is the person that loses. So the first person to speak, eventually your client will look at you and feel a little bit awkward, and they will start talking, and you got them. If you start talking and try to add more stuff, like, oh, I didn't convince them enough, you get a little bit of what they call the diarrhea of the mouth, because you're trying to fill that silence. You lost the presentation, because they can tell you're not confident. And so have confidence in what you're doing, have conviction in what you're doing, and that if you doubt yourself, your client's going to doubt you. You can still doubt yourself, but just don't show it. We all have that kind of like, okay, now I got the client, now I really got to go find a house. It's the most nerve-wracking thing. But just have some confidence in what you're doing, and it gets better with practice. I remember talking to my first client, I was like, and I don't get nervous talking to people, but because it was a new field, even though I knew a lot about it, it still is nerve-wracking. So just be confident and go for it. And, worst thing they can do is say no, and then just figure out why they're saying no, overcome those objections like we talked about, and then still try to convert them, and just go forward. And if they're not the client for you, don't be afraid to not take that client either. It's okay.
Absolutely. No, I agree. Yeah. And I think it's about that. We talked about this earlier, right? It's about understanding yourself, setting. And I think this is all part of it too, is that, and it'll keep coming again and again, that mindset part, understanding your value, setting a standard for yourself that this is a business. Think about it from a business perspective, right? A lot of us, I am my own, I'm speaking out loud here so that I take my own advice. Like I constantly, it's an emotional roller coaster, and you have to try to get yourself out of it and make a business decision, right? And you and I on a personal level, we talked about that multiple times. So, to wrap this up, thank you, Jacob, so much for joining me. It's been quite the ride. We have a couple of more sessions to go, and we're over that hump of the halfway session point, and we're now we've been in the meatier side of a lot of the topics. So it's getting super exciting, and I hope I've noticed that we have a little community of people that are following our content. It's given us a little bit of fire to keep going. Thank you so much, guys, and feel free to join our private Facebook group. It is the name of this training session called New Realtor Marketing and Mindset, and comment and let us know what kind of information that you like, that spoke to you, and that it helped you. And feel free to jump in and ask us question right in the comment below. Myself or Jacob will get back to you. And it's really about a community what we're trying to build here, and working together as a team. And if you would like to partner with us and to join our team, feel free to get in touch with us. We're happy to book a one-on-one with you to show you some of the things that we work as marketing professional on the back end, because we both have a tradition, like a training in marketing as well. So that this is why these Clubhouse sessions we're super passionate about, and that Jacob and I, we really thought about the structure of these sessions, because we wanted to really work with our new real estate agents to take it to the next level, because these are all from learning experience, and that's why this is a peer-to-peer section. So please feel free to join us, raise your hands, feel free to come in and ask questions. We want people to join in. I wanted to say thank you, everyone, so much. You've really given us a motivation to keep going. And I'll end with that. Thank you very much.
All right, good night, guys.
Take care.